The wind howled, sharp as a blade, slicing through the Colorado night as the ski lift groaned to a halt. Ethan's heart pounded not from the cold, but from the realization that they were stranded, suspended 30 feet above a silent, snow-draped valley. Beside him, Liam's breath hitched, his gloved hands gripping the icy metal bar as if it could anchor them to reality. They weren't supposed to be here. A wrong turn during their last snowboard run had led them off the marked trails of Breckenridge, chasing a thrill that now felt like a reckless mistake. The resort's lights twinkled far below, mocking their predicament, while the chairlift swayed in the gusts, creaking like it might give up at any moment. Ethan stole a glance at Liam, his best friend since freshman year at Boulder, the guy who'd always been there through late-night study sessions, heartbreak, and secrets Ethan hadn't dared voice. Liam's blonde hair stuck out from under his beanie, his pale blue eyes scanning the darkness, searching for a way out. Ethan's chest tightened. How did we end up here? We're gonna be fine, Ethan said, his voice steadier than he felt. They'll notice the lift stopped. They'll come get us. Liam's laugh was brittle, almost swallowed by the wind. Yeah. You see anyone rushing up here? We're invisible, man. The truth stung. The resort was shutting down for the night. The last skiers long gone. Ethan's phone was dead, and Liam's had no signal. They were alone, suspended in a frozen limbo, with nothing but each other and the biting cold. Ethan shifted, his snowboard boots heavy against the footrest. He'd always been the reckless one, the guy who pushed boundaries in the slopes. In life, Liam was the opposite, cautious, introspective, the one who thought 3 steps ahead. Yet here they were, equals in this mess, their differences meaningless against the vast, indifferent mountain. Let's just talk, Ethan suggested, desperate to keep Liam's panic at bay. Keep our minds off it. Liam raised an eyebrow, his lips twitching. Talk. About what? How we're gonna freeze to death up here. Don't say that. Ethan's tone was sharp, protective. He couldn't lose Liam not like this. Not ever. They'd met 4 years ago in a cramped dorm room, Ethan's cocky grin clashing with Liam's quiet intensity. Ethan was all bravado, a small-town kid from Wyoming who'd come to Colorado to escape his past. Liam, a Denver native, carried himself with a guarded grace, like he was always holding something back. Over time, they'd become inseparable, their friendship a tether through college chaos. But Ethan had always sensed a wall in Liam, a secret he couldn't breach. Now, trapped on this lift, that wall felt closer than ever and more fragile. Okay, fine, Liam said, his voice softer now. Let's talk. Tell me something real, Ethan. Something you've never told anyone. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to laugh it off, to deflect with a joke, but Liam's eyes held him, steady and searching. The cold seeped into his bones, but it was Liam's gaze that made him shiver. Ethan hesitated, the words clawing at his chest. He'd buried this truth for years, locked it away in a place even Liam couldn't reach. But up here, with nowhere to run, it felt like the mountain itself was demanding honesty. I'm not who you think I am, Ethan said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I've been hiding something. From you. From everyone. Liam's breath caught, his eyes widening. What do you mean? Ethan looked away, the snow blurring into a white void. He'd grown up in a town where being different wasn't just frowned upon, it was dangerous. He'd learned to hide, to play the part of the carefree jock, the guy who didn't feel too deeply. But every time Liam smiled, every time their hands brushed during a high five, Ethan's carefully built walls cracked a little more. I'm gay, Ethan said, the words tumbling out like a confession to the universe. And I've been in love with you for years. The silence that followed was louder than the wind. Liam stared at him, his expression unreadable, and Ethan's heart sank. He'd ruined everything. Their friendship, their trust, all because he couldn't keep his truth buried. But then Liam spoke, his voice trembling. "Ethan, I need to tell you something too." Liam's words hung in the air, fragile as the snowflakes swirling around them. Ethan's confession still burned in his ears, raw and exposed. And now Liam's hesitation felt like a second cliff they were teetering on. The ski lift swayed, the cold metal creaking under their weight, amplifying the tension. "Say it," Ethan urged, his voice hoarse. He needed to know, needed to hear whatever Liam was holding back, even if it shattered him. Liam's gaze dropped to his gloved hands, twisting the edge of his scarf. "I've been hiding too," he said, his voice barely audible over the wind. "I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared it'd change everything." Ethan's heart stuttered. "Change what?" Liam looked up, his blue eyes glistening, not from the cold, but from something deeper. "I'm gay too, Ethan. And I felt something for you for a long time. I just didn't think you'd ever." He trailed off, swallowing hard. The world seemed to stop. The wind, the cold, the creaking lift all faded as Ethan processed Liam's words. He feels something too. The realization was a spark in the darkness, warming him against the biting cold. But it also terrified him. What did this mean? Where did they go from here? "You're serious?" Ethan asked, his voice cracking. "You're not just saying this to make me feel less like an idiot?" Liam let out a shaky laugh, his breath clouding the air. "I'm not that selfless. I've been carrying this for years, Ethan. Every time we hung out, every time you got too close, I had to stop myself from saying it. I thought you were straight. I thought I'd lose you if I said anything." Ethan's mind reeled. All those moments, the late-night talks, the shared glances, the way Liam's hand lingered on his shoulder suddenly took on new meaning. He'd chalked it up to wishful thinking. But now the truth was undeniable. They'd both been hiding, both been afraid. "Why didn't you say something?" Ethan asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Why didn't you?" Liam shot back, a spark of defiance in his eyes. "You're the one who's always so fearless, charging down black diamond runs like it's nothing. But this, you kept it locked up tight." Ethan winced. Liam wasn't wrong. He'd spent years perfecting his mask, convincing himself that love was a risk he couldn't take. Growing up in Wyoming, he'd seen what happened to kids who didn't fit in: whispers, fists, exile. He'd run to Colorado to escape, but the fear had followed him. "I was scared," Ethan admitted. "Back home, being out wasn't an option. My dad, he'd never understand. I thought if I told you, you'd pull away. I couldn't lose you, Liam." Liam's expression softened. "You wouldn't have lost me. Not ever." The words hit Ethan like a punch, stealing his breath. He wanted to reach out, to close the gap between them. But the lift's metal bar and their bulky snow gear felt like a fortress. Instead, he held Liam's gaze, letting the moment stretch, heavy with unspoken promises. The wind picked up, rattling the lift, and Liam shivered. Ethan noticed the way his friend's lips were starting to blue, his scarf no match for the dropping temperature. Without thinking, Ethan tugged off his own jacket and draped it over Liam's shoulders. "What are you doing?" Liam protested, but his voice was weak, his body trembling. "You're freezing," Ethan said firmly. "I'm fine." "You're an idiot," Liam muttered, but he pulled the jacket tighter, his fingers brushing Ethan's. The touch sent a jolt through Ethan, a reminder of how close they were. How much was at stake? We need to stay warm, Ethan said, trying to focus. They'll find us soon, but we've got to make it through the night. Liam nodded, his jaw tight. Okay. So, what do we do? Just sit here and confess our deepest secrets. Ethan managed a small smile. Seems like a good start. They fell into a rhythm, trading stories they'd never shared. Liam talked about his high school crush on a quiet boy in his art class, how he'd sketched him in secret, too afraid to speak up. Ethan shared the time he'd overheard his dad's slurs about a neighbor's son, how it had cemented his silence. Each story chipped away at the walls between them, building something new in their place. But as the hours dragged on, the cold grew relentless. Ethan's fingers numbed, and Liam's shivering worsened. They pressed closer, sharing body heat, their breaths mingling in the frigid air. Ethan's heart raced, not from fear now, but from the closeness, the weight of Liam's shoulder against his. We're gonna make it, Ethan whispered, more to himself than to Liam. Liam's hand found his, gloved fingers intertwining. Yeah, he said softly. Together. The night deepened, the stars above Breckenridge sharp as pinpricks in a velvet sky. Ethan and Liam huddled closer on the ski lift, their shared warmth a fragile shield against the relentless cold. Their hands remained clasped, a silent vow in the face of the mountain's indifference. Ethan's mind churned. Liam's confession still echoed, a melody he hadn't dared hope for. But with every gust of wind, reality crept in. They were stranded, possibly for hours more, and the cold was no longer just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. We need to keep moving, Ethan said, his voice steady despite the ache in his bones. Keep the blood flowing. Flex your fingers, your toes. Liam nodded, his teeth chattering. Easier said than done. Feels like my body's shutting down. Don't say that. Ethan's tone was sharp, almost desperate. He couldn't let Liam give up. Not now. Not when they'd just found this fragile new truth between them. He started moving, shifting his weight to rock the lift chair gently, trying to generate heat. Liam followed suit, their movements clumsy but determined. The chair swayed, creaking ominously, but it kept them awake, alert. Tell me something else, Liam said, his voice strained but curious. What's the one thing you want most? Like, if we get off this lift alive. Ethan laughed, a rough sound that warmed the air between them. Alive's a good start. He paused, considering. I want to stop hiding, to live without looking over my shoulder, to be me, you know, out there. He gestured vaguely toward the dark valley below. Liam's eyes softened. That's brave. Is it? Ethan shrugged, his breath clouding. Feels like running away. I left Wyoming to escape, but I brought all that baggage with me. I'm tired of it. Liam squeezed his hand. You're not running now. You're here. With me. That's something. Ethan's chest tightened. Liam's words were a lifeline, pulling him back from the edge of doubt. He wanted to say more, to tell Liam how much he meant, but the cold was sapping his strength, making every word a battle. Your turn, Ethan said instead. What do you want? Liam hesitated, his gaze distant. I want to stop being afraid of losing people. My mom, she's supportive, but my dad's old school. He doesn't get it. I've spent so long trying to please him. I forgot how to be myself. Ethan's heart ached. He knew that fear, the weight of expectations. You don't have to please him. Not anymore. Liam's smile was faint but real. Easy for you to say. You're the fearless one. Fearless. Ethan snorted. I'm terrified right now. Not just of freezing, but of what happens when we get down. If we get down. We will, Liam said firmly. And when we do, we'll figure it out. Together. The word together hung between them, heavy with promise. Ethan wanted to believe it, wanted to hold on to this moment. But the cold was relentless, creeping deeper into their bones. Liam's shivering had slowed, a dangerous sign, and Ethan's own limbs felt heavy, sluggish. We need to stay awake, Ethan said, his voice urgent. He started singing, a ridiculous pop song from their college days, his voice cracking but determined. Liam laughed, weak but genuine, and joined in, their voices blending in the frozen air. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep them fighting. They sang until their throats were raw, then switched to story silly ones, like the time Ethan tried to cook Thanksgiving dinner and set off the dorm's fire alarm. Liam countered with the story of his first art show, how he'd spilled paint on his professor's shoes and still got an A. But as the night wore on, the stories grew quieter, their energy fading. Ethan's eyes drooped, and Liam's head rested heavier against his shoulder. Stay with me, Liam, Ethan whispered, shaking him gently. We're not done yet. Liam stirred, his voice slurred. Not going anywhere. Promise. Ethan wrapped an arm around him, pulling him closer. The cold was a monster, clawing at them, but Ethan refused to let it win. He thought of Liam's smile, his quiet strength, the way his confession had changed everything. They had something worth fighting for now, something bigger than the mountain. The first hint of dawn crept over the horizon, a faint gray light that offered no warmth but a sliver of hope. Ethan clung to it, to Liam, to the belief that they'd make it through this night and whatever came after. The gray light of dawn crept over the peaks, casting long shadows across the snow. Ethan's arm ached from holding Liam close, but he didn't let go. Liam's breathing was shallow, his body slumped against Ethan's, and fear gnawed at Ethan's gut. Stay awake. Stay alive, he chanted silently, willing them both to hold on. Liam, Ethan said, his voice rough. Talk to me. Tell me about your art. What do you want to paint next? Liam stirred, his eyes fluttering open. You're relentless, he mumbled, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Okay. I want to paint this. Us. The mountain. The stars. All of it. Ethan's heart swelled. You'd make this look beautiful. You always do. Liam's art was his soul on canvas, vivid, raw, full of emotion Ethan could never quite put into words. He'd seen Liam's sketches, the way he captured light and shadow, and it always felt like glimpsing a piece of him he kept hidden. Now, knowing Liam's truth, Ethan saw those sketches differently, as love letters to a world he was afraid to claim. You're gonna paint it, Ethan said fiercely, and I'm gonna be there when you do. Liam's smile widened, but his eyes were glassy, his strength fading. Ethan tightened his grip, panic rising. The cold was winning, and the distant hum of the resort below was still silent. No rescue, no movement, just them, the lift, and the endless snow. We need to move again, Ethan said, forcing energy into his voice. He rocked the chair gently, ignoring the creak of metal. Come on, Liam. Dance with me. Dance. Liam's laugh was weak but real. We're stuck in a chair. You lunatic. Then we'll make it work. Ethan started swaying, humming a slow tune, his movements small but deliberate. Liam joined in, their bodies shifting in sync, a clumsy waltz in the sky. It was absurd, but it kept them awake, kept them fighting. As they moved, Ethan's mind drifted to the future. He imagined them free from this lift, standing on solid ground, no longer hiding. He saw Liam's paintings lining gallery walls, saw himself cheering louder than anyone. He saw quiet nights, shared glances, hands held without fear. The vision was so vivid it hurt. A promise he wasn't sure they'd live to keep. Liam, Ethan said, his voice low. If we get out of this, I want to try. Us. For real. Liam's eyes met his, bright with emotion despite the cold. You mean it? More than anything. Ethan's throat tightened. I've wasted too much time being scared. I don't want to lose you, not to this mountain, not to anything. Liam's hand found his again. Their gloves a barrier, but their connection undeniable. I want that too, he whispered. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't shut me out. If we start something, you can't run when it gets hard. Ethan nodded, the weight of the promise settling in his chest. I won't. I swear. The moment felt sacred, a vow sealed in the freezing air. But the cold was relentless, and Liam's shivering returned. Worse than before. Ethan pulled him closer, tucking Liam's head against his chest, trying to share every bit of warmth he had left. Tell me about your favorite painting, Ethan said, desperate to keep Liam talking. Liam's voice was faint but steady. It's a sunset. Over the Rockies. I painted it after we went hiking last summer. You were there, laughing about something stupid. I didn't tell you, but I painted you into it. Just a shadow, but it was you. Ethan's breath caught. You never showed me that one. I was scared you'd see too much, Liam admitted. It's you, Ethan. It's always been you. The words were a lifeline, pulling Ethan through the haze of cold and fear. He held Liam tighter, whispering promises of warmth, of rescue, of a future they'd build together. The dawn grew brighter, but the cold was a thief, stealing their strength with every passing minute. Then, faintly, a low rumble from below. Ethan's heart leapt. Liam, listen. Do you hear that? Liam lifted his head, hope flickering in his eyes. The rumble grew louder. Unmistakable now, the hum of a snowcat. The resort's rescue vehicle. They're coming, Ethan said, his voice breaking with relief. We're gonna make it. Liam's smile was weak but radiant. Told you, together. The snowcat's rumble grew louder, a beacon of hope cutting through the dawn's chill. Ethan clung to Liam, his heart pounding with a mix of relief and fear. They were so close to rescue, but Liam's body was heavy against his breathing shallow, his skin too pale. Stay with me, Ethan whispered, shaking Liam gently. They're almost here. Liam's eyes fluttered open, a faint spark in their depths. Not going anywhere, he murmured, his voice barely a breath. Ethan's throat tightened. He couldn't lose Liam now, not after everything they'd shared, not when they'd finally spoken their truths. He rubbed Liam's arms, trying to coax warmth back into him, his own fingers numb and clumsy. The snowcat's lights pierced the morning haze, illuminating the snow below. Ethan waved frantically, shouting despite his raw throat. Up here. We're here. The vehicle stopped, and two figures in orange jackets emerged, their voices muffled but urgent. Ethan's relief was tempered by the sight of Liam's closed eyes, his head lolling against Ethan's shoulder. Panic surged, sharp and cold as the wind. Liam, come on, Ethan pleaded, cupping his friend's face. Open your eyes. Look at me. Liam stirred, his gaze unfocused but present. I'm okay, he whispered. Just tired. Don't you dare give up, Ethan said fiercely. We've got plans. Remember, you're gonna paint that sunset. I'm gonna be there. A faint smile curved Liam's lips. Bossy. The rescue team reached the lift's base. Shouting instructions Ethan barely heard. A ladder clattered against the chair, and a woman's voice called up, calm but commanding. We're getting you down. Hang in there. Ethan held Liam tighter, his heart racing as the team worked. The ladder shook under the weight of a rescuer climbing up, a man with a weathered face and steady hands. We've got you, he said, clipping a harness around Ethan first. No, Ethan protested. Take him first. He's worse off. The rescuer nodded, shifting to secure Liam. Ethan helped lift him, every movement a battle against the cold and his own exhaustion. Liam was limp, but his hand gripped Ethan's weakly, a silent promise. As Liam was lowered to the ground, Ethan's chest ached with a mix of relief and dread. He followed, the ladder swaying under his weight, his legs trembling as he reached solid ground. Paramedics swarmed Liam, wrapping him in blankets, checking his vitals. Ethan hovered, helpless, his heart in his throat. He's hypothermic, a paramedic said, her voice clipped. We need to get him to the hospital now. Ethan nodded, his voice gone. He climbed into the snowcat beside Liam, holding his hand as the vehicle roared toward the resort's medical center. The warmth of the cabin was a shock, thawing Ethan's fingers but not his fear. At the hospital, doctors moved quickly, hooking Liam to IVs and warm blankets. Ethan sat by his side, refusing to leave, his own exhaustion secondary to the need to see Liam's eyes open again, bright and alive. Hours passed, the sterile hum of the hospital a stark contrast to the mountain's wild silence. Ethan's mind replayed their night, the confessions, the promises, the way Liam's hand had felt in his. He'd meant every word. But now, watching Liam's chest rise and fall, he realized how fragile it all was. Liam stirred, his eyes blinking open. Ethan. I'm here, Ethan said, leaning closer, his voice thick. You scared the hell out of me. Liam's smile was weak but real. Sorry. Didn't mean to. Ethan laughed, relief flooding him. You're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. The doctor confirmed it. Liam's hypothermia was mild, his recovery promising. Ethan's own condition was better, his stubbornness having kept him alert. They'd been too lucky, the doctor said, warning them about the dangers of off-trail snowboarding. As Liam rested, Ethan sat back, his mind spinning. They'd survived the night, but the real challenge lay ahead. Coming out, building something real, facing a world that wasn't always kindred wouldn't be easy. But for the first time, Ethan felt ready. Liam reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. We're doing this, right? He asked, his voice soft but certain. Ethan squeezed back. Yeah. Together. The hospital room was quiet, save for the soft beep of Liam's monitor. Ethan sat by his side, their hands still linked, the warmth of Liam's fingers grounding him. Outside, the Colorado sun climbed higher, melting the snow into glittering streams. But inside, time felt suspended, their world narrowed to this moment. Liam's color was returning, his cheeks no longer deathly pale. You look like you aged 10 years, he teased, his voice stronger now. Ethan chuckled, rubbing his eyes. Feel like it too. You owe me for keeping you alive up there. I'll paint you something, Liam said, his eyes twinkling. Maybe you in that ridiculous red jacket. Looking all heroic. Heroic. Huh. Ethan grinned, but his heart was racing. They were joking, but the weight of their promises lingered. They'd crossed a line on that lift, and there was no going back. The doctor cleared Liam for discharge by noon, with strict instructions to rest and stay warm. Ethan helped him into a wheelchair, ignoring Liam's protests. "You're not walking yet. Tough guy?" Ethan said, his tone firm but fond. Back at their Breckenridge rental, Ethan tucked Liam into bed with extra blankets, the memory of his shivering body too fresh. The cabin was cozy, a stark contrast to the ski lift's icy grip. But Ethan's mind was still on the mountain, replaying their confessions, their closeness. "You don't have to hover," Liam said, catching Ethan's worried glance. "I'm fine. Really." "I know," Ethan said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "But I almost lost you. That's not something I shake off easily." Liam's expression softened. He reached out, tugging Ethan closer. "You didn't lose me. You won't." The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Ethan leaned in, hesitant at first, then bolder, his lips brushing Liam's in a kiss that felt like a promise kept. It was soft, tentative, but it carried the weight of years of unspoken longing. Liam kissed him back, his hand cupping Ethan's face. And for a moment, the world was perfect. When they pulled apart, Ethan's heart was pounding, his smile unstoppable. That was, wow. Liam laughed, his eyes bright. Yeah. Wow. They spent the day recovering, curled up on the couch with hot cocoa, talking about everything and nothing. Ethan shared more about his childhood, the fear that had kept him silent, the way Liam's friendship had been his anchor. Liam opened up about his dad, the pressure to conform, the art that had saved him. But as evening fell, reality crept in. They'd have to face the world soon, friends. Family. The life they'd left behind in Boulder. Ethan's stomach knotted at the thought of his dad, whose gruff voice still echoed in his head, condemning anything that didn't fit his narrow view. "What happens when we go back?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet. Us, it's not going to be easy." Liam's hand found his, steady and sure. "No, it won't. But we've got each other. That's enough to start." Ethan nodded, drawing strength from Liam's certainty. They weren't naive, they knew the road ahead would be rough, with judgment and whispers waiting. But they'd faced a mountain and won. This was just another slope to conquer. That night, they fell asleep tangled together, the cabin's warmth a stark contrast to the lift's cold. Ethan dreamed of snow and stars, of Liam's smile, of a future they'd build one step at a time. The next morning, they packed up, ready to return to Boulder. Ethan glanced at Liam, who was sketching in his notebook, his pencil capturing the curve of a mountain under a starry sky. "Is that us?" Ethan asked, leaning over. Liam smiled, adding a shadow that could only be Ethan. "It's always been us." As they drove away from Breckenridge, the mountains fading in the rear view, Ethan felt a quiet resolve. They'd taken a wrong turn, but it had led them here to truth, to love, to a beginning. The drive back to Boulder was quiet, the hum of the road a steady backdrop to Ethan's racing thoughts. Liam sat beside him, sketching in his notebook, the pencil's soft scratch a comforting rhythm. Ethan stole glances at him, marveling at how everything had changed in a single night. They were no longer just friends, they were something more, something fragile and new. Back at their shared apartment, reality hit like a cold gust. Their roommates, Jake and Mia, greeted them with a mix of relief and teasing. Heard you two got stuck on a lift, Jake said, grinning. Romantic getaway, or what? Ethan's stomach twisted, but Liam laughed, deflecting with ease. Yeah, nothing says romance like freezing your ass off. Mia raised an eyebrow, sensing something unspoken. You guys okay? We're good, Ethan said, his voice steadier than he felt. But as Jake and Mia headed out for dinner, leaving them alone, Ethan's nerves returned. Liam, he said, sitting on the couch. We need to talk about how we do this. Us. Liam set his sketchbook down, his expression serious. I know. We can't hide forever. But I'm not sure I'm ready to tell everyone. Ethan nodded, understanding the fear. Me neither. My dad'll lose it. But I don't want to keep us a secret. Either. Not after everything. Liam reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. We'll figure it out. Step by step. Maybe we start with people we trust. Like Mia? Ethan agreed. But the weight of the future pressed down. Coming out to friends was one thing. Facing family was another. He thought of his dad's stern face, his mom's quiet compliance, the small-town judgment he'd fled. Liam's family wasn't much easier. His dad's traditional views loomed large, even if his mom was more open. Over the next few days, they settled into a tentative rhythm. They stole moments alone, kisses in the kitchen, quiet nights watching movies, hands brushing as they passed in the hall. But outside their apartment, they were cautious, hyper-aware of every glance, every word. One evening, Mia caught them holding hands, her eyes widening before softening. So, you two? Ethan's heart raced, but Liam nodded, calm and sure. Yeah. Us too. Mia's smile was warm. About time. You guys are cute together. Her acceptance was a relief, a small victory. But Ethan knew bigger battles were coming. He called his mom that night, testing the waters, mentioning he'd met someone. Her cautious excitement turned cold when he said he. The silence on the line was deafening, and when she finally spoke, it was to change the subject. Liam's dad was no better. Over a tense dinner, Liam hinted at his truth, only for his dad to shut down, muttering about choices and phases. Liam came home shaken, and Ethan held him, whispering promises they'd make it through. But the world wasn't all judgment. Their friends rallied, some surprised but supportive, others claiming they'd seen it coming. Jake threw a cheesy congrats party, complete with rainbow cupcakes, and Ethan felt a spark of hope. Still, the fear lingered. Ethan noticed Liam's sketches growing darker, the vibrant colors replaced by stormy grays. You okay? Ethan asked one night, finding Liam staring at a half-finished canvas. I'm scared, Liam admitted. Not of us, but of losing my dad. Of what people will say. Ethan pulled him close. We'll face it together. Whatever comes. Liam nodded, his eyes bright with unshed tears. I'm glad it's you, Ethan. I'm glad we got stuck on that lift. Ethan smiled, kissing his forehead. Me too. As winter faded, they planned their next steps, telling more friends, maybe finding a community in Boulder where they could be themselves. The mountain had tested them, but it had also forged them, turning fear into courage, secrets into truth. Spring arrived in Boulder, the snow giving way to blooming wildflowers and warm breezes. Ethan and Liam stood on their apartment's balcony, the Rockies a distant silhouette against a pink sky. It had been 3 months since the ski lift, 3 months since their world shifted, and yet the memory of that night still felt like a heartbeat between them. They'd faced challenges since returning. Ethan's dad had called, his voice cold, demanding explanations Ethan wasn't ready to give. Liam's dad remained distant, though his mom sent quiet gestures of support, a text, a care package, a promise to talk sense into her husband. But amidst the tension, there were victories. Their friends formed a protective circle, their love a shield against judgment. Mia started a campus group for LGBTQ+ students, and Ethan and Liam attended, finding a community that felt like home. One evening, Liam unveiled his painting, a vivid canvas of the mountain under a starry sky. Two figures silhouetted on a ski lift, hands clasped. The colors were bold, the emotion raw, and Ethan's breath caught at the sight. "This is us," Liam said, his voice soft. "This is what I saw that night." Ethan pulled him close, tears in his eyes. "It's perfect." They decided to show the painting at a local gallery, a bold step toward living openly. The night of the exhibition, Ethan stood by Liam's side, nervous but proud, as strangers admired the work. A few whispered, some stared, but others smiled, their nods a quiet affirmation. An older couple approached, their hands linked, and shared their own story of love against the odds. Ethan felt Liam's hand tighten in his. A silent "we're not alone." The gallery night was a turning point. Ethan started writing, pouring his fears and hopes into a blog that gained a small but loyal following. Liam's art flourished, his canvases a testament to their journey. They weren't fearless, doubts still crept in, and some days felt heavier than others, but they faced it together, their love a steady flame. One sunny afternoon, they hiked to a lookout above Boulder, the same trail they'd taken the summer before the lift. Ethan carried a ring, simple but meaningful, in his pocket. He hadn't planned to propose. Not yet. But the moment felt right. The mountain air clear and full of promise. "Liam," Ethan said, stopping at the peak, the valley sprawling below. "That night on the lift, it changed everything. You changed everything." Liam's eyes softened, sensing what was coming. "You did too." Ethan took a breath, pulling out the ring. "I don't know what's next, but I know I want it with you. Will you be mine? For real? For always?" Liam's laugh was bright, tears streaming down his face. "Yes, Ethan. Always." They kissed, the mountains bearing witness. Their love a quiet rebellion against a world that didn't always understand. The ring slid onto Liam's finger, a promise of a future they'd build together, step by step. As they hiked back, hand in hand, Ethan thought of the ski lift, the cold, the fear, and the truth it had forced them to face. A wrong turn had led them here, to a love stronger than any storm, to a life they'd chosen without hiding. The mountains stood tall, silent guardians of their story. Ethan and Liam walked on, together, their hearts as vast as the horizon, their love a canvas painted with courage and hope.